All right, anybody have any announcements, news, complaints? Nobody? I know you do, Mr. Barker. What you got? Come on. Nothing? Can't think of anything? You went to see who? The Conjuring. Was it good? You don't recommend? How many stars? -3 stars. All right. Don't say you haven't been warned. Has anybody else seen The Conjuring? All right, you have? Do you agree with his review?
It was okay. I mean, like.
Did y'all scream at all?
Yeah, I did a little bit. But
Scream a little bit.
just a little bit.
All right. I know my people in the video are like, come on, Professor, get to it. We got better things to do than listen to you talk about movies. So I screwed up the quiz in multiple ways. So here's what we're going to do about it. I'm just going to give everybody a chance to redo it if you want to, but I'll give you 2 or 3 weeks to do it. I'll post all this so you'll know. I screwed it up because when I first set it up, the grading on the matching was messed up. I fixed it before it was due, but some of y'all took it before I fixed it. So I'm going to go back and get that right. And then something about the lockdown browser was flagging people for using notes, which is completely allowed to use notes. Did that happen to you?
Well, I was just confused because I've already seen this open up.
I know.
Webcam and I don't like.
So I don't. This is kind of the first time I've actually had to do all this, so I didn't get the settings right. But I absolutely intend for y'all to be able to use your notes. I'm not trying to trick anybody. I don't want anybody using the internet or their phone to look it up, but I do. Anything that you've taken notes or you've printed out, that's all fine to use. So I'm going to learn better about the settings I need to do on the webcam so that y'all can use all that. So I apologize if that was a hassle to y'all, and I will try to make it up to you in 2 ways. One, by I'm going to give you like 2 or 3 weeks to redo it if you want to, and then the quiz for this week I'm going to make extra short and super easy. So hopefully give everybody it won't take up a lot of time studying for it this week, and it'll give you an easy A. Like that. Garrett says he's nodding his head. That's good. All right, so that's the plan. This week you will have a quiz. Again, it'll be short and easy, and it'll be due Monday. And then we also have an assignment this week, which I'm going to talk about in depth at the end of this class. So I'll go over that all with you about what's involved in that and what is expected. All right, this week we're going to talk about business ethics. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ask away. Yep. I hadn't set them up yet.
Oh, okay.
I need to set up your grade thing as well. I apologize. No, that's on me too. It's just something I need to do. I'll be honest with y'all. I put all that off because I hate I'm not good at it and I'll screw something up. And so I don't, but I need to just do it. And I think that I learn every semester and then I find new ways of screwing it up. So I used to have a student who was helping me out with stuff like that, and then he graduated, and I really miss him in that way. All right, so hopefully by now y'all have gotten a flavor of the rhythm that we're going to have. We're going to do a different subject every week. We're going to quiz on it on Monday, and then we're going to move on. So this week is a brand new topic, business ethics. It's a little bit foundational, like what we've been doing so far when we were looking at the court system and sources of law and the way that we talk about litigation and cases and the language we use, that we'll be able to use that for the rest of the semester. After this week, we will be getting into more substantive areas of the law. Like, for instance, we're going to do a week on criminal law. We're going to do a week on contract law. We're going to do a week on employment law. We're going to do a week on torts and products liability. So we are going to be getting into the substantive part, but I wanted to do one more week of foundation before we jump off into that. Because by doing ethics up front, then it becomes something that we can weave into all the other things that we talk about, and we can keep coming back to it for the rest of the semester. And I find that it's helpful for students in that way. You probably talk about business ethics a decent bit in your other classes. If you haven't yet, you will. I think there is a business ethics class, standalone class, that if you ever have a chance to take that, I highly recommend it. It's actually something you'll take with you and use in your careers. Corporate social responsibility, that's something y'all probably heard about before in your other classes. If you hadn't, you will, but that's something we're going to go over today. So today I want to just talk about ethics in general, where they come from, how they apply to our everyday lives, how they apply to us in the business context, and then we'll go from there. So ethics, of course, is the study of or the idea of what is right and what is wrong. That's about as broad a topic as we could have, right? What is right and what is wrong. It's also about as wide open a topic in terms of things that we may disagree about. Ethics are intensely personal, all right? Before we can think about the ways that we want to behave in our professional lives, we got to know how we think and how we believe and what we value in our personal lives. So our personal ethics is the foundation that we'll then carry forward to determine what our business ethics are. We've got to know, if you don't know, I would submit to you, if you don't know who you are, what you stand for, what you believe, you're going to have a really hard time translating that into the professional context. How should I behave in my job? What are the duties I owe to my employer? What are the duties I owe to myself? Where are the lines that I draw? That is something that my employer might be asking me to do, but I'm not comfortable doing. If you don't know where you stand personally, then it's going to be a lot harder for you to navigate that space professionally. So the first question I put out to you is, for each of us individually in deciding what our values are, what is right, what is wrong, what we believe, where do we get that from? What are the sources of our ethics? People we're around. All right, tell me about that, Leandre. What kind of people?
I feel like specifically more or less like our family.
Okay, our family members. That's a huge source of our belief system, right? If I asked you, everybody think of something that your mom or your dad or your grandparents, a saying that they have that you stick with you, like my grandmama always said. You can think of that, right? Probably the church or the religion that you were raised in, if you were raised religion or not, that was a choice that your parents probably made for you at first. And then as you became older and old enough to do that for yourself, you sort of took what you believed from what you'd learned and you adapt that to the way that you experience the world. But our family, for sure. Who else? School. Tell me about that, Scarlett.
Like, you know how in kindergarten and stuff, like it's kind of like show respect to your elders, be quiet when someone's talking.
Share.
Share.
Right. Right. So at an early age, our values are informed by school, for sure. Yes, sir.
I think a lot of it's like where you grew up, because like southern and northern in the U.S. like cultural differences.
Right. In the South, we like to think that we're different. I've never really lived anywhere else, so I don't know that I could tell you if that's true or not, but we sure like to think we are. Sure, where you grow up is going to be different. Aiden was talking about within the country, but even within, let's say, the state of Georgia. If I grew up in downtown Atlanta versus I grew up in Marion County, Georgia, that might have different value systems, right? Sure, exactly. What else?
Personal experiences.
Personal experiences. Tell me about that, Seth.
What's been done to you?
Okay.
How made you feel what you've done to others? How that made you feel?
Yeah, what your actual experiences are. Sometimes we don't know how we might react in a situation or how we feel about something until we've actually had to go through that ourselves, or we've actually had to make those decisions, or something that has happened to us at an early age that is going to influence or flavor the way that we see the world going forward. Right? I know that in my line of work, children that are adopted, that's going to be something that they're going to view. Well, a lot of them are going to view the rest of their life through the prism of that I was adopted. in good ways and in some hard ways. Certainly our experiences. That's an excellent one. What else? Where else do you get your ethics from? What are, if you think about your ethical influences? Your family, we said your family, your school, your experiences, your culture. Maria?
I would say institutions, like as for me, like being in the army, you have different ways of like
That's a great one.
behaving or like
That's a
some
great
things
one.
you cannot do that other people do.
And that I would guess, because I certainly don't have that experience, involves some personal ethics, but also professional as well. You're expected to behave a certain way, or you're taught to act in a certain way, but those are also things that you could apply in your personal life as well, right? For sure. For sure. Institutions, our jobs. Nobody has said maybe what I think is one of the most important influences on our ethics. Drew. Yeah, unfortunately, that is true. That wasn't the one I was thinking about, but for sure. Like I know my kids. I have 4 kids, and one of them's graduated college, one of them's in college, and the other 2 are in high school, and they get their news from social media, and that scares me to death. You know, they'll ask me a question about something going on in the world. I'm like, where did you see that? Why do you think that? Oh, I saw it on TikTok. Like, that's not the news. That's not the news, but it is their news. So yeah, social media influences tells us how we ought to look, how we ought to act, the things we ought to value. Absolutely. And I mean, I would hope that we could all think of some good influences that social media has had on us, but maybe some bad ones too.
So you think like social, like news from TikTok is like not good?
No, I don't feel like it's not good. I feel like it's, this is a great question. I feel like it's not the whole story.
I feel like there's a lot of fear mongering.
I feel like it's headline, it's sensationalism, and then you're getting like my daughter said, are we at war with, is Iran going to attack us? I'm like, no. Why would you think that? Well, it was like, we're at war with Iran. Like, where did you see that? Like well, we did bomb them. I give her that. I mean, there's a conflict, right? But I also think that traditional news media was more trustworthy when I grew up. So now I'm like, well, I wish they would like go to trusted news sources. But then I'm like, are there any trusted news sources anymore? So that's why I'm open-minded to the fact that this is where the people are getting their news now. I don't know where you would go to get a balanced account of what's happening. I don't know. Do y'all go into, this is a legit question, do y'all go into AI like chat or something and say, what's going on in Iran? No? What if you hear that something's going on in Iran? Like, what is your go-to? Where do you go to figure out what's going on? Google? TikTok? I'm not knocking it. This is the way it is, right? TV? Yeah, but I mean, if you watch Fox News versus CNN, yeah.
Yeah, look at the same manner.
But isn't it like I've done the experiment sometimes where something big happens and I like click on one news and it's being covered. I click on the other and they're completely ignoring it. And I'm like, well, what is go? I can't trust anything.
I think the hardest part is like when you're trying to Google or look for something, depending on how you ask the question, whether it's intentionally biased or not, you're going to get a completely different response.
I think that's right, Aiden. And I think that's what most frustrates me is how am I going to decide how I feel about something if I can't get the facts on which to base my decision? That's one of my biggest frustrations. And I think that for my children and for y'all. How are you going to decide how you feel about something if you can't get an honest, unbiased account of what the basic facts are that you can make your decision on? So social media, I knew that was coming, Drew. I'm glad you brought that up. There's another one we haven't mentioned that may be the biggest influence on some of our ethical systems. Autumn. The law. Yep. The law, and we're going to talk about that in a second too. The law and ethics have an interesting relationship. A good one. Cody?
We say parents.
Yeah, parents and family. Yep. Garrett?
Like habits or hobbies.
Yeah, habits and hobbies. Somebody earlier said, in my earlier class, said sports, and that they threw out martial arts, which I think I would make similar to the Army in that there are principles that you learn in martial arts that are specific to the actual sport, but they also have principles about respect and honor and discipline and things like that that would apply to your personal lives as well. So yeah, your organizations and things like that. What else? Environment. What way? I mean, all of these things are really our environment, right? If I asked y'all what is the one main rule in your life that you use to guide yourself, where do you get that from? Where do most of us get that from? Yes.
I'd say childhood or upbringing.
Okay. Yes, that is true. I'm looking for a specific source. You're not wrong. You're getting there.
Societal norms.
Societal norms that's another good one. Wasn't what I was looking, but that is right. Certainly, we feel or behave certain ways because we think that's how we're supposed to, or that's just what we do. Religion is what I'm thinking of. Religion informs a lot of our personal values. If you're raised Christian, you learn in an early age the Ten Commandments. That's a code of ethics of sort. But certainly our religious principles have a large influence on what we believe, what we value, what we stand for. All right, how does that transition then or translate into business ethics? As I said earlier, I think you need to know who you are before you can decide what you're going to do and what you're not going to do in your professional lives. First off. But second off, the way that we behave professionally might differ than the way we behave personally. Why might that be? Why might the way that I conduct myself in front of a classroom at CSU be different than the way that I conduct myself in my personal life? What would explain that, Garrett?
Well, number one, you get paid when you want a job. So, not saying you're the guy in your personal life, but you need to make sure that you're being the very best standard.
Okay. I'm acting differently because why?
Because you're the leader,
I'm representing CSU, right? I'm employed by them, right? My job is to follow what they want me to do. If I don't know where my personal lines are, then I'm going to have a hard time knowing where my professional lines are. But sure, I might be discriminatory in my personal life, and by that I don't mean discrimination can be a bad word, certainly. But there's also good discrimination in this way that I want everybody to appreciate. We don't let 4-year-olds drive cars. We're discriminating against that 4-year-old, right? We sure are. I go to the Methodist church. I've chosen to go to that church and not the Catholic church or the Muslim or whatever. I've discriminated against those other religions in my personal life by choosing the one that I do. We don't let people who can't see be air traffic controllers. That's discriminatory against people who have sight problems. It is, but we do it. Not necessarily bad discrimination. So the discrimination, the choices that I make in my personal life would definitely be different than the ones that I make as an employee of CSU. There's also a little something called the law as an employee at CSU and as an employee of the state of Georgia that governs or limits my conduct. I can't get up in front of you and push religious messages. We know that's unconstitutional. In my personal life, maybe I'm deeply religious, but that is a different ethic that I'm going to bring to my professional life. Okay, right, so that is one of the main reasons why they're different. a couple of other areas when let me go back to sources for a second. How many of you work for a company that has a code of ethics? You do? How do you know that?
Because they like put up a big sign
Okay,
that shows it in like the break room and everywhere.
they put up their sign in the break room. All right, what company is it?
It was Studio Movie Girl.
Okay. And is that local?
Back where I'm from, yeah.
Okay, where is that?
Alpharetta, Georgia.
All right, so I was thinking that you must be from a larger place. All right, how many employees, approximately?
A lot. Like everyone, probably around like maybe 60, 70.
Okay, and in the break room, you had your code of ethics posted. Do you remember anything that was on it?
Like the main little tagline was like opening hearts and minds one service at a time.
Okay, I give you credit for that, because if you said I don't know anything on it, I would have said I don't know anything on ours either. I'm sure that the university system of Georgia probably has a code of ethics. In fact, I know they do. When we get hired at a job, if your company has a code of ethics, a lot of times they'll make you sign off that you read it or that you agree to follow it or believe in it or whatever. So company codes of ethics are another source of ethical influence. Some professional groups, like for lawyers, I am bound to follow the code of ethics of the State Bar of Georgia and the American Bar Association. So some industry groups also have codes of ethics. So that ranges from what we've talked about, from our own personal experiences from early on with our family, what we learned as children in kindergarten, through our religious experiences, through where we live, through our culture, through norms, social media, through the law, and all the way up through whatever codes of ethics our companies may impose on us. These are all areas that would influence the way that we think and behave about what is right and what is wrong, both in a personal context and in a business context. Let's talk about the relationship between the law and ethics for a second. I hope I say this right. I have to think about it every time. Most things that are legal, no. Not everything that is legal is ethical. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay? So we can't equate legality with ethical. Ethical does not necessarily equal legal. It could. There's a lot of overlap between those things, but it's not necessarily equal. So there's an idea, your outline talks about this idea of the moral minimum. That means that in the business context, the very least a company should do ethics-wise is follow the law. Now, we might also think that there are situations where a company should go is bound ethically to go above and beyond what the law says. But there is a school of thought that a company should not be bound to do anything above and beyond what's required to do legally. That's the floor and the ceiling. Let's say that I own a factory and we have wastewater as a byproduct of our manufacturing, and we discharge it into the local river. The law says that we could discharge a certain amount with a certain concentration of pollutants. We stick to the law. We don't go over and above that. But what we are putting in the river, even though it is legal, is poisoning children in our community. Is that ethical? Not necessarily. And I would say that is that ethical is going to depend on, I think we would differ on, I think it's going to be individual. We might collectively think that feels bad. Polluting over and above, polluting, even though it's legal, if it's killing children, that feels ethically wrong. But there is a school of thought that would say that has nothing to do with it. So the whole point in that being that ethics is going to change from person to person. Okay. Scroll down to, I want to skip something in your outline. Go down to stakeholders, which is the next to last section. Stakeholders, when we say that, we're talking about all the people that would be affected by a business decision. So now we're looking at ethics and through the business lens right now. The example that you have in your outline, Austin, do you see the fact example about the plant? Right, read that for. Tell me what those facts are.
You mean like the list below it, or do you just mean the?
It starts off with like plant fire or something like that.
Yeah, the manufacturing plant fire in Georgia destroys entire facility. Plant owned by the same family for generations. Has been the main economic engine for the small town where it is located and the main employer for the town and surrounding areas.
All right, good. Those are the facts. So in your last section of the outline, it talks about a framework for making ethical decisions. The first step is identify the facts and the issue. So Austin read us the facts. We had a fire at a manufacturing plant in a small town, completely destroyed it. It's going to have to be rebuilt, if at all. It's the main employer in the town. Most of this town's economy is derived from the business that the plant does. It's been owned by the same family for generations. So there's a deep tie between the family and the community. All right, that's the facts. What is the issue? What's the decision that the business is having to make here?
Where to rebuild factory or not rebuild it?
Whether to rebuild it at all, and if so, where? Excellent. Good. All right, if we keep going, then the next step would be identify the stakeholders. So if you see under section 7, stakeholders, who are they? Let's take them one at a time. Who are the people that will be affected by our rebuilding decision? Employees, all right. In what way? How would our employees be affected? Okay. Our employees in the town where our factory was could be out of a job. What if one of our options is to rebuild in a part of the world where that is underdeveloped, and by building this new plant in this area, we're going to elevate this economy from being just a local agrarian economy to more industrialized and improve the quality of life for everybody where we rebuild it.
What about the people you leave?
Well, that's exactly my point, Leandre. When we talk about stakeholders, our current employees are one of them. Our potential employees at another location are another group that would be interested. We could do a lot of good somewhere else. You're right, we're going to be doing a lot of harm where we are. But that's something to weigh. Aiden.
So like this example that we're going through is like very, very identical to what happened to my community
Okay.
and where I came from growing up.
All right, talk to me about that.
So I lived in Canton, North Carolina.
Where's that near?
It's like west of Asheville. It's right on the North Carolina, Tennessee border.
Okay.
And
Mountains?
Yep.
Okay.
And we had a paper mill that was, I think, 110 years old.
Okay.
It was the economy.
I'm standing next to you so that then my folks can hear. So.
But it drove the economy
Okay.
of everything, bringing in wood. I mean, from western or eastern Tennessee, just the whole region. And they had to make a tough decision where, you know, it costs more to try to keep the plant going than it did from the profits coming in.
Okay.
And so they ended up closing, which displaced, I think, 3,000 or 4,000 people out of work and out of jobs, which in a town of, I think, 12,000, that hurt. That ruined it.
So how long ago was that?
This was about 3 years ago.
And in the 3 years since then, what have you been able to see as the effects?
A lot of businesses are gone, and what hurt even worse was Hurricane Helene wiped out what was left.
That
And
added
so-
insult to injury. The hurricane.
So there's
did.
nothing.
So there's
It's
not much
empty.
left.
It's a ghost town. It's kind of crazy to see.
So that is your parents still live there?
No, my grandparents live
Your grandparents live there. Are they still there?
Yep. Luckily, it's a big farming community outside of it, so everyone's pretty self-sustainable. But people who there's generations of a family that have worked there, multiple families like that just lost everything.
So that is, yeah, you have a real life example of something that I made up that is absolutely tangible. So another stakeholder would be the community at large. If we lose this employment base, then those employees lose income, obviously. That's less money to spend. If people move out of town, that's less money pumping into the local economy. Stores are closing. Real estate prices are now going down because there's less demand. There is less money coming into the government's coffers through taxes. So government services may suffer. You can see on and on and on how this would go. All right. What other stakeholders do we have to consider? Shareholders, Seth. All right. That is going to be not the opposite, but certainly a different perspective than the community, right? All right. The shareholders in this case would be the family that owns the company. All right. What is their interest?
They own a portion of the company.
They do. Profits. They're interested in the bottom line. If they have to rebuild the company, who's paying for that?
Then it's not like they can just go get another job if this fails. So they have more risk than the employee.
Right. So they're in Aiden's real life example, they just closed. They just called it a day, said it's been a good run. We're going to take what we got left or the insurance money. We're going to call it a day.
It was startling because it was like we knew everyone kind of knew it was going to end at some point in the next 10, 15 years, just because a lot of people being hired to keep.
It was headed that way anyway.
They got 3 months notice.
Yeah, that happened locally. Anybody had a family that worked in our local mills in Columbus, Seth? Like the Pilatex mill and all that, the Swift mills and everything that we had. When I first moved here 25 years ago, they were barely hanging on, and they were doing like Aiden. They were kept going, but really not profitable. And you wondered how long that could sustain itself. And eventually it didn't. And now all those mills are loft apartments, and we've developed them downtown. Yes. So the stakeholders are certainly, the shareholders are certainly a stakeholder. I mean, if I'm the mayor of the town, I don't want this plant closing. But if I'm an owner of the plant and it's coming out of my pocket, or and depending whether or not I'm financially successful or not, then I carry in a lot different way. All right, so we have to balance all these. There are very rarely going to be ethical decisions that are going to be 100% crystal clear. Okay, there are some, but ones like this example, not so much. So in your framework for decision making, it would be identify the facts, identify the question, identify the stakeholders, consider the options. And then I think is interesting at the end of your decision making framework, it says, make your decision and then justify it. And would you be comfortable going on TV and on the news and explaining your decision? Making a decision in private is sometimes a lot different than when we're going to have to go out and face or have to answer questions to. All right. So go back to the role of business in society and corporate social responsibility. That's sections 5 and 6. So just like there are differing views of what is ethical and what isn't, there are differing views about what the role of a company is in society. Is a company a citizen that we expect to do good, to contribute to society, or is a company in existence just to make money and has no responsibility other than to its shareholders? Or is it somewhere in between? Okay. There's a school of thought, I think it's Milton Friedman, who was a famous economist, and he said the role of a business is to make money for the owners, for the shareholders, period. End of sentence. It is not to consider things like citizenship and giving back and things like what would happen to the town if we shut our factory down. That's not the role of business. This school of thought would say that if all business is focused on just profits and nothing else, those businesses will be profitable, the communities they're in will do well, their employees will do well, and society will take care of itself that way. Everything will take care of itself if the companies are profitable. It's not the business of a company to decide what's right or wrong in a community. Okay? The opposite of that is a school of thought that the value of a business is intrinsically related to its goodwill, to its brand name, to the way people feel about it. That you can't divorce the bottom line from reputation. That there's a relationship between those two, that a good name, good reputation, being a good citizen does in turn boost the bottom line, because consumers want to do business with. The theory is that consumers want to do business with businesses who do good, who are good citizens. Everybody Google corporate social responsibility report, and then put in a company you're interested in: Walmart, McDonald's, Starbucks, something like that. And then you're going to see a link to an actual report. Doesn't matter what year it is. And I want you to pull it up. Search CSR report, or corporate social responsibility report, Target. Got it? They come up? Anybody not see one? All right, what you're going to pull up when you click the link is some really glossy, shiny advertisement for all that company is doing that's good. And I'm not knocking on that. But I would suggest to you that I'm not sure how many of these companies that you're looking at right now would actually do a report if they didn't think that it's helping their image. The cynic would say they're only doing that because it's expected of them, and if they didn't do it, they'd look bad. And they don't want to look bad. Has anybody ever made a consumer buying decision based on one of these corporate social responsibility reports? Nobody's ever said, I'm going to buy a TV, but before I do that, I need to go and look and see what the Philips versus Panasonic does socially. Now, we do make some maybe less conscious decisions about companies we support based on their positions on social issues. Or if bad news comes out about a company, you know, we think maybe in the back of our mind sometimes, well, we're not going to buy from X company because, I'm trying to think of a good example. The one I'm thinking of makes me be really old, but like when Exxon spilled all that oil in Alaska, that I don't want to do business with Exxon because they didn't do a good job of cleaning up their oil spill. We do sometimes think that way, but I would also submit to you that if we're driving down the road and we need to fill up our car, and there's an Exxon station on this side of the road with gas that's 20 cents cheaper than the Chevron over here, no matter how bad we feel about Exxon, where are you going, Austin? You're probably getting the 20 cents a gallon cheaper gas, right? So there are lines that we have. I think it's comical. I don't have a problem with companies expressing social views. I have a problem with companies that express social views just to be doing it. They don't really mean it. And when I think about that, remember when the George Floyd news was out, and Black Lives Matter was very prominent at that time on social media and on the TV and all that stuff. And you saw companies falling all over themselves to do commercials saying we are Black Lives Matter. We stand with George Floyd or whatever. I mean, do you see those anymore? No. You just saw them during that period of time when it was the thing to do, because company X, this is me being cynical, I think they just did it because they didn't want to be the ones to not do it. When Russia invaded Ukraine and all these companies fell all over themselves to leave Russia, right? Do y'all remember who those are now? McDonald's did. I think I remember that. Can you name one company that stayed in Russia that you think should have left? Nobody can. It might have been a big deal at the time because you didn't want somebody saying, well, we've all pulled out of Russia. Tebow's company over there is still in Russia. They must love, killing babies and innocent people in Ukraine. 3 years later, nobody is associating that with my company anymore. So the idea of corporate social responsibility is tied to the bottom line in ways that we might wish that they were socially responsible because it's the right thing to do. And there are probably a lot of companies who do that. I can think locally of some companies that give back to our community and do a really good job of it, and I appreciate it. Aflac, Synovus, some of those companies do a great job of being good citizens. But are they doing it because it's the right thing to do, or are they doing it because it maximizes shareholder value? It boosts the bottom line. There are different views on that. There's a school of thought that would say there's no such thing as business ethics. And this is more prevalent than you would think, especially in academia. There are plenty in the academic world who think that the idea of teaching business ethics or companies even being worried about business ethics is ridiculous. That companies are required to follow the law, and that's it. They don't have a responsibility to the community, to their employees, anybody. They don't. As long as what they're doing is legal, that's as far as they've got to go. So there are different ways to think about that as well.
I don't know if it was in this company's like CSR or whatever, but a lot of people were saying the company in Lululemon, they did it intend for like their clothing wearing to be worn by Black people.
The Lululemon guy got in big trouble for saying that he intentionally named it with the L sound that would be hard for Asians to pronounce. Did I get that right? Isn't that right?
Yeah.
That was a huge scandal. But again, that was pretty bad. I can understand where people would be like, well, I'm not going to support them. His whole name of his company is, racially, is a joke racially. Did anybody remember that now?
I never heard that.
You never see? Leandra's never even heard that.
Someone's like, why don't y'all make sizes like larger? He's like, they're athletic clothes are meant for athletic people.
Oh. There's a huge PR failure at Lululemon, I would say. But yeah, you look at these, like at the CSR report y'all were looking at, even if you did look at it, are you going to fact check any of it? Are you going to go back and be like, McDonald's said that by the end of the year, they were going to reduce non-recyclable waste by 30%. I need to go back next year and see if they did that. They're probably not going to admit it if they don't. But even if they do, it's just not something we've got time to track. And in our gas example, we are probably more driven by the effect on our personal finances than we are on other things. But that's not to say that a company, I can't think of a specific example, but I can see not buying from a company because of the stance they've taken or something they've done. That's certainly conceivable. All right, pull up assignment 4.1, sorry. from your content module. And I want to walk you through the assignment for this week. All right. Earlier, I told you that I don't think it's possible or a good idea for you to effectively operate ethically in your professional lives if you don't know where you stand ethically in your personal lives. So this assignment is designed to get you to examine what it is that you believe, what you stand for, what you value. It's designed to help you look at all the sources of your own ethical principles. Where did they come from? What are they? This is a personal assignment. Nobody else will read it but me. And you get 100 if you do it. And it's actually your work. Okay, so I'm not grading you on whether I agree with your ethics or whether I think that what you believe is good or not. I'm not going to say, Garrett, you got a lot of work to do ethically. I mean, I see what you believe in, but C, your ethics are C. Not doing that. If you believe that there's no such thing as ethics and that we should be able to murder people without penalty, if that's your belief, put it down. Of course, that's extreme. I don't think anybody's going to do that. If you do, I might not give you, I mean, I'll still give you the grade for doing it, but I'll think less of you. Just kidding. So nobody else reads it. I've given this assignment for probably 20 years, and it is consistently one of the favorite assignments that students do. They don't mind doing it, and they find that when they finish it, it was meaningful to them. So I hope it is for you. It's due on Monday. What I don't want you to do is let AI do it for you. Okay? And you laugh, but somebody's going to. It happens every semester. And it's really easy in this assignment to tell. First of all, if you are doing an ethics assignment, if you're going to cheat on an ethics assignment, then that tells me that you have no code of ethics. That tells me everything I need to know about you, okay? If you can't even do your own work on an ethics assignment. But also, how sad is it if you're going to let a computer or something else tell you, speak for you? Say what you believe. Yeah, this is just an assignment in business law for the professor. Nobody's ever going to read it. But if you're comfortable letting a computer or something artificial speak for who you are, then that's really sad. So forget for a second that it's an ethics assignment that we don't want to cheat on. But if you're comfortable letting a computer say who you are, then that to me is really sad. So here's what I want you to do in this assignment. It's in Word form, so you can do it in this document if you want. You can do it in your own, however you want. But you're going to start off with 10 statements that start with I am. What are the most 10 important things that define you? I am a Southerner. I am a Catholic. I am a 5th generation farmer. I am adopted. I am in the military. I mean, what are the 10 things that define you? Okay, could be as simple as I am a male. I am a female. For some of us, that is that important, that much of an important part of our identity. Again, this is who you are. I'm not grading or judging who you are. So 10 I am statements. The next section is 10 statements that are I value blank because blank. I value loyalty because I need to know that the people that I trust will be loyal to me. I value kindness because I believe that is the foundation of most personal conduct. I value hard work because that is something that's been modeled for me, and I believe that is the key to success. I value preparation because I've seen in my work experience that it's possible to out-prepare others. And that's a key to success, is being more prepared. Whatever it is that you value. What do I believe? I believe that 10 statements can be anything you want. I have learned that. You'll do 10 statements that talk about what experience has taught you. In my interactions with others, I expect them to blank 10 statements in that. That's part 5. Part 6, what inspires me? Please don't just Google, give me 5 inspirational quotes and then paste them in. I want you to really think about not just a quote, but is it a scripture, Bible verse? Is it a religious principle? Is it a piece of advice my grandmother always said? Is it a saying? Is it a slogan, a lyric? What are the things that when you think of your inspiration, what comes to mind? So give that some thought. Then what you're going to do is you're going to read back through those 6 parts. Reflect on kind of how you've built your belief system, what you have written down as you. And then I want you to write 10 statements that begin, I will. This is your own plan of conduct. I will. I will treat others with kindness. I will always work my hardest. I will always be considerate of others' points of view. Whatever it is that I will step over as many dead bodies on the way to the bank to deposit my money as it takes. Whatever your personal code of ethics is. Okay? Again, it's really easy for me to spot AI in this assignment, even though I know some of you will do it, and I'm looking at my online people as well. That's an automatic 0, and maybe even fails the class if you are cheating on ethics assignment. Then you and I got problems. Plus, you're going to get something out of this by doing it. So, if you have questions on what is expected in the assignment, let me know. It's due Monday night. Don't wait till the end. You will have a quiz on today's lecture and Thursday's lecture, and it's going to be an easy, short one. Thursday, we're going to do all class discussion on ethics scenarios. I'm going to throw out some different fact patterns, and we're going to debate what is ethical and what isn't. So we'll see y'all on Thursday. If you came in late, let me know.
I pulled up some extra stuff about the mill. So
Oh.
It's 115 years old. But after it closed, the